Truth Seeker. It's getting national news attention that Nicki Minaj and Madonna kissed backstage at the 35th VMAs this past Monday night, August 20th, 2018. It's reminiscent of 15 years ago when Madonna kissed Britney Spears. I want to show you the darker side of this kiss that most people would never catch. And we've already covered a bit about this. Aretha Franklin dying on Madonna's birthday. Nicki Minaj putting out the album Queen just before the death of the Queen of Soul. Done a little more research, and there's a whole lot of things we have not covered yet. So check this out. Just as a reminder, we talked about this album released August 10th by Nicki Minaj, Queen, being 66 minutes in length, and why that's interesting. Aretha Franklin in Gematria sums to 66, like the Queen of Soul, as does the word woman. Aretha Franklin, one of her more well-remembered songs, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. And Nicki Minaj is anything but. She's a work of science. Anyhow, this is where it starts to get more interesting. I overlooked this before. From Aretha Franklin's 76th birthday, March 25th, to the release of this album, August 10th, was 138 days later. And we covered this Monday, August 13th, 13/8, like 138. That was the day the news story broke about Aretha Franklin being on her deathbed, being gravely ill. And pardon my voice, you guys. I'm up here in Washington State where there's all the terrible fires that are in the national news. And I mean, it really is bad. I have mountains that are just outside my window. I can't even see them. It's all smoke. But it feels like I've been smoking even though I haven't. Anyway. Aretha Franklin, 138, the Queen of Soul. This album released 138 days after her birthday. What are the odds? What else is interesting is this album of Nicki Minaj's was first supposed to release June 15th. They were going to release it June 15th, and then they pushed it back to August 10th. And look at this. This just goes to show how planned all of these rituals are. From June 15th to the day Aretha Franklin died, August 16th, is 62 days. And in Gematria, Queen equals 62, as does Motown, where she passed. 8/16/2018, the date of her death, was also a date with 62 numerology. This album was originally going to release 62 days before the day the Queen died, the same day Elvis the King died, a date that has a lot to do with death. Remember, Aretha and Elvis died on the 228th day of the year. The word death has Gematria of 228. A lot of celebrities have actually died on that date, as I covered in videos I put out last week. The other thing that's really jumping out, and which I forgot to talk about in my most recent video on Madonna and her speech at the 35th VMAs, is this. Nicki Minaj is 35 years old right now. This album came out exactly 35 weeks after her 35th birthday, on the nose. And the reason that number is gaining significance is because the day Elvis died, Aretha Franklin was 35 years old. And now this kiss happened at the 35th VMAs, and Madonna gave a tribute speech to Aretha Franklin largely about herself. But the speech began with how she left Detroit. She's actually from Bay City in Michigan, but her speech says she left Detroit, where Aretha died, with $35 in her pocket. Do you believe it? Understand, this is all numerical ritual. And the same day that Aretha Franklin died, that was the day that national news was made out of Little Rock, Arkansas, about the unveiling of the satanic statue, the Baphomet. And I just want you to see that in Gematria and the base ciphers, Satan equals 35, so does Baphomet. So does Elohim, which is the God of the Old Testament, and as many Bible scholars say, is Satan. And if you read about the God of the Old Testament, it's hard to disagree. The God of the Old Testament wants human sacrifice, wants war, wants murder, wants revenge. The God of the Old Testament is evil. So Just notice, 35 is obviously a number in this ritual. One more time, Aretha Franklin was 35 when Elvis passed. He died the same day Aretha would go on to die. And as a reminder, Elvis was 42 years old. They said Elvis made black music. 42 is a number stamped all over black history. Aretha was born in the year 42. She made 42 studio albums before her death. And she died on a date with 42 numerology as well. 8 plus 16 plus 18, 42. Anyway, this 35 thing, obviously apparent. Nicki Minaj, the Queen, 35 years old. Album Queen released 35 weeks after her birthday. People are telling me there's a story in the news where Aretha Franklin was recently asked about what she thought about Nicki Minaj and she didn't comment. It's interesting. But also, as I pointed out, Nicki Minaj has this gematria of 93 like Aretha Louise Franklin. And Madonna also has the same middle name, Louise, with the same spelling. So let's transfer over to Madonna one more time. Madonna turned 60 years old the day Aretha Franklin died. And supposedly her birthday is August 16th. August 16th, 2018. Date with 62 numerology. Also, date with 26 numerology. The day Aretha passed. Now look, in Gematria, Queen is 62 as we covered, and also 26 when you use the rules of numerology. So the difference between these ciphers is, like in this one, the green one, Q's the 17th letter, U's the 21st, E's the 5th, E's the 5th, N's the 14th. You add up the letters using the alphabetic order. Over here in the dark blue, you use the alphabetic order, but you take into account the rules of numerology. So instead of Q being 17, you take the numerology as 17. 1 plus 7 is 8. U, instead of being 21, is 2 plus 1 is 3. E's still 5, E's still 5. N, instead of being 14, is 1 plus 4 is 5. Those are the difference. These are the ciphers I've taught since 2013. Notice Aretha's also 26. Notice Madonna is 62 and 26. Notice the 35th VMAs where Nicki Minaj and Madonna kissed. MTV's 26, VMAs is 26. This is all using the base ciphers. Motown also 62 and 26. Sacrifice 62. A death by the numbers. Today in the news headlines, they're saying Aretha Franklin had no will or trust for her family. What are the odds of that? You know, they're saying she died from pancreatic cancer, this long battle with illness, and nowhere did she think to create a will or trust. This is what I mean. The media lies to people. They always come up with these false excuses for why these people died. The truth is, when people are poisoned with arsenic, they usually die 2 to 3 days after they're poisoned. Aretha Franklin, deathly ill, August 13th, breaking news. Dead 3 days later, August 16th by the numbers. Is that a coincidence? As a reminder, August 16th is also the day that leaves 137 days left in the year, which is the 33rd prime. Arsenic, the 33rd element on the periodic table. And in Gematria, using the alphabetic order and numerology, arsenic equals 33. So both Madonna and Aretha, the middle name Louise, obviously they're tied together in this ritual. Interesting that they share that middle name. That name has gematria of 27 and 81 like ritual. Madonna's surname, Sisone, gematria of 137, like how August 16th leaves 137 days left in the year. Madonna's a practicing Kabbalist. This code of letters and numbers comes from Kabbalah, the Book of Formation, important book in Kabbalah. The first paragraph, God created the world by merging the number with the letter with the sound. And just in case you're new here, God has the gematria of 26. Letter has the gematria of 26. We're talking about the code behind the 26-letter English alphabet. All of this stuff comes from Kabbalah. So, I don't know my symbolism as well, but I'm sure there's things that stand out to certain people about what Madonna's wearing. And as for the date of the VMAs, they fell on the date with 66 numerology. Speech for Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, Nicki Minaj's 66-minute album. It's all rituals in the world of celebrity. And I don't think it could be any more clear. If you haven't heard Madonna's VMA speech, just look it up. I'm not going to play it because I'll get a copyright strike. I get one more copyright strike, and guess what? I can't post videos anymore. You know, if you saw what I got my last copyright strike for, it was a joke. I showed a picture of the cover of the music album Breakfast in America by Supertramp, released in 1979. If you want some 9/11 truth, go look at that album cover. It's from the perspective of looking out of a plane at the World Trade Centers, and above the World Trade Centers is the word Supertramp, and they put the U above one of the towers and the P above the other. And the thing about the U is, the bottom part of the U, the hook, it's covered by the building, so all you see are the two lines from the U. Draw two lines, a P, and put a mirror up against it. You'll see that it says 9/11. 9/11, right above the World Trade Centers, looking out of a plane window at the World Trade Centers. If you type in Breakfast in America, you'll see that that sums to 156. That's the name of the album. 911 is the 156th prime. So I'll bring that up just because Google took down that video showing the album cover and what's significant about it. Plus, there's a whole lot of other things which you can learn about on my blog. The blog post is still up. But they're giving out copyright strikes easy these days. All I did was showed a picture of an album cover. So you think if I should play the video of Madonna, I'm not going to get a copyright strike? I'm not even going to chance it. I'll link all these blog posts below. Also, if you're new here, if you're into this information, I've written a 773-page book on this topic. You literally just have to read the first 5 pages to get enough. All the rest is bonus. But I also priced this 773-page book at $5. And this thing took 5 years of my life to write. Priced it at $5 because I want people to have it. I want people to not have an excuse not to buy it. I promise you, you're going to get more out of that book than your entire education. I don't care if you went to graduate school. I don't care if you got a doctorate. You're going to get more meaningful information out of that book than anything you've ever learned from before. I link it in the description of every video. Letters and numbers, teaches you the code, where it comes from, its history, why it matters, how it's used every single day, in a number of ways. In case you're new here, this code is used in murdering people. Longest chapter in the book is Murder by Numbers, based on a song that came out in '83 by the band The Police. And when you flip the alphabetic order around, murder equals 83. Look at the movie cover poster for Murder by Numbers. They changed the E to a 3 and the B to an 8. You know? And when you flip the alphabetic order around and use the rules of numerology, murder is also 38. 38, 83, 3 and 8 on the Murder by Numbers movie poster. Song came out in '83. Talk about all this in the book. Longest chapter in there is Murder by Numbers, because this is the thing people really know about. People are getting killed by this code. But every day, news propaganda is made this way. Sports games are rigged this way. This is the code of the elite. If you ever heard that term, the cabal, comes from Kabbalah. All right, Truth Seeker, until next time.